Hello and welcome to Microsoft Build's APAC Community Connect. We are coming to you live from all across Asia, right from Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand, across the board. We have an exciting lineup of speakers who are community leaders and Microsoft experts for you. What we're going to go through today is two things. One is know who are your community leaders, what inspired them, how can you do the same? And the next part of it would be ask anything of our panel of Microsoft experts. Across from data, AI, even right up to quantum computing, anything that you want to ask, this is your chance, come chat with us. I am trying to get our slides going. So are you able to see the slides? So the first thing I want to talk to you about is the community. What we have done in the community mostly has been around not just Azure Tech communities, which is a big part of what we do, but also work with open source communities like the Python, AI Geeks. You can look at the JavaScript Singapore, Sri Lanka, Angular, and across the board. So it has been a great year and a half that this team has been working on the ground with the communities. And the purpose of working with you in the community is to make sure that you have all the tools, entire tool chain, whether you're an app developer, data scientist, data engineer, DevOps engineer, whatever be it, that you have all the tools on hand to make you more productive and more collaborative. So with that, I will now get the speakers in and let you meet some of our awesome, inspiring community leaders. Hi, Narinder.
Hello, Annie. Hello, everyone.
So, welcome to, I'm waiting for Narinder to show up. Yes, great to have you here with us, Narinder.
Great, thank you, Annie. Thank
Narinder,
you.
Narinder Wickasono is a CEO and founder of Decoding Indonesia, and he has actually been working with developers and communities for more than a decade. I know the wonderful work you're doing in Indonesia, Narinder. So tell us a little bit about what inspired you to start this work with developers and what has changed really in the last 10 years that you've been working with them.
Yeah, thank you, Annie. So our vision is to nurture a winning network of developers. And to achieve these dreams, we continuously work to fulfill two mission statements. Our first mission is to supply the IT industry with the best developer talent in the market. And our second mission is to spark developers to create successful global products. I think in the last 5 years, there's two things that happen specifically in my country, Indonesia. First, our digital curriculum doesn't really match with what industry need. So I'm talking about the curriculum that being used at the university or vocational high school. Because the digital curriculum using the same update cycle with the conventional one. Second, there is not enough expert become teacher or mentors to pass their knowledge and skills. Um, Access to the experts is still a privilege because many talented developers now centralize on big company or well-known startup. They have their own communities. So I think those two things causing delay on production of high quality talent in Indonesia. Developer want access to the latest technology and to the expert, something that can ideally be get from the communities.
Excellent. And how have you adapted? How has upskilling of developers adapted in the last couple of years?
Okay, so our organization worked closely with many technology companies to build curriculum that is made available in Indonesian language. For example, we work together with Microsoft, and I think for your information now, our Azure class already produced more than 2,500 graduates. The distinct features that differentiate us is manual code review. So every student needs to submit their codes, which then are going to be reviewed by our team of certified experts. So there is a model called inline review. This is a mechanism to ensure that we don't compromise with the quality of graduates and make sure the transfer of knowledge happen from the expert to the new developers. As a result, now our graduates now working at various startups, including the well-known unicorn. So yeah, I think that's like what we're trying to do to solve the problem that we face.
Right. And I do understand that you have run hacks to kind of make sure that developers are learning and upskilling in a different way, but also to connect the ecosystem that requires these skills.
Yes. Yeah, I think for developers, there is a two track. Yeah, the first one, if they want to become employee, they need to be relevant with what industry needs. So this is the thing that our community play a big role. For example, we facilitate events. So until today, we host like more than 1,000 offline events that connected approximately 50,000 developers. The networking event is very essential to trigger the collaboration between community members. But that's like before all things happen. Yeah. So online event like this is great, but we also need the offline one because we are human. We are missing the human touch. So talking about like the second part is to become entrepreneur, want to build a product or services. So to help the promote this creative digital innovation, we host online challenge. So in the last 5 years, our developer already produced more than 5,000 digital products, and in total already reached more than 200 billion download globally, the cumulative download for all those products. So our principle is very simple. Ideas are useless unless used.
Right, and that is so true, especially in the current scenario where the economic recovery is actually, and I think the Indonesian president very eloquently says that the whole economy's growth is literally dependent on software developers, and he's calling developers to come rebuild the nation. So very exciting to hear the work you're doing, Narinder. I know and have been seeing the excellent work. Is there one story you would like to tell us about someone who is taken the path with your community and where they have reached?
Yeah, I think, well, I'm a kind of person in my organization, kind of person that believe that growth, we believe in things called growth mindset. We believe that talent is something that not come from the birth. It's come because of the hard work, a good strategy, and they learn from the best expert. So I think one of the example is we have a motorcycle driver who, like last year, he's still a motorcycle driver, and because of his tenacity and passion, he really learned about how to develop an application on mobile. He learning and still doing the like the online things, driving the motorcycle and doing the delivery. And now today he's working on very respected company as a real app developers there. So we believe with that. So that's why I think in our platform we believe that every member of community have the same opportunity to be successful.
Fantastic. I mean, that's such a inspiring story, especially with what Microsoft announced at Build on the Power Platform and inviting citizen developers to come join the journey. So apparently, only 8% of the technology jobs worldwide is today addressed by software professionals. So think about the 72% roles that need to be addressed. And we need more and more people included in that digital journey. So very inspiring to hear a motorcycle rider. And I heard something in Japan of a cafe owner or a cafe employee who actually created Power Platform apps and really made a business out of it. So thank you, Narinder. It's been a pleasure, as always, talking to you. Rock on.
Thank you, Annie.
All right. Here we are. Lot of exciting work happening with the communities, and let's go over and meet some of our awesome women who are doing some fantastic work with the, I should say, diverse groups of communities. There's a lot of women groups, but also there are other diversity factors that matter, underrepresented people, and so on and so forth. So I have an exciting couple of leaders here that I am so inspired by, and I can wait to tell you and invite them. First up, let me invite Leanne Roberts. Leanne Roberts is the co-founder of She Loves Tech. She has been working with She Loves Tech. She founded it. We'll hear the story very shortly. And it's super inspiring. It's all around women entrepreneurs and enabling them to do more better. Then we have Daphne Chung. Welcome, Daphne. And Daphne is a leader with Women Who Code, especially in Malaysia. Daphne runs a lot of work with women groups, but also works a lot with students, the 15 to 18-year-old students, and getting them upskilled on computer science and STEM, inspiring them to go into STEM. So, hi, Liam. Hello, Liam. I'm not able to hear your audio. Can you speak? We can just see whether.
Hi.
Yes.
Can you hear me now? Great.
Yes. How are you doing?
Thank you. I'm doing well.
Liam,
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, sure. It's a pleasure. I'm sure folks are waiting to hear about your story. Can you tell us a little bit about how you got started and the journey you've come?
Well, She Loves Tech is right now the world's largest startup competition and accelerator program for women in technology. We are in over 20 countries all around the world, and our startups have raised more than 100 million USD in funding after being part of She Loves Tech. Back in 2015, when we started She Loves Tech, we really saw an opportunity to solve a problem that our community was facing. We realized that there were a lot of tech startup competitions that were built by men and predominantly had male tech founders join. Once in a while, you would see a token woman. But what we found was that there were amazing women building amazing technologies and that they were not getting featured and the attention and consideration that they deserved. We wanted to change that at She Loves Tech and provide them a global stage to showcase them. And that's the reason why we started She Loves Tech.
Awesome. Lian, tell me a little bit about, I mean, you're a big proponent of the fact that women founders require a little more nurturing before they can actually, and that's especially true in the Asian market. So tell us a little bit about what are the challenges women founders face and how are you helping them?
You're right. I mean, I don't think that that they need more help specifically, but a different type of help. right? Because women entrepreneurs are as practical as any entrepreneur, right? They're busy and tight on time and resources, and they want to be able to build or be in communities that they can help them to deliver results for their businesses. So some of the things that we see actually are that there are unique challenges that women entrepreneurs face. So a one-size-fits-all approach doesn't really work. You know, men and women just have different challenges. For example, research has shown us that when men pitch their companies, they tend to be very aggressive and overstate their financial projections. And if anything, when I advise them, I have to advise them to tone it down a little bit and be a little bit more realistic. Women, on the other hand, have the reverse problem. They are extremely conservative about their financial projections, and they tend to rely on what they have done instead of the potential of their company. So they are not only coming in at a disadvantage because women in general are less likely to be funded, but then they're also underpricing their company. So we have to help them to overcome the fear of being bold. So once again, that one size fits all approach doesn't really work. And regardless of, and hence, you know, She Loves Tech identifies the unique challenges that women entrepreneurs face and design a program to help our founders succeed.
Right. And there's some phenomenal work happening there. I don't know about that. So let me bring in Daphne for a bit. Hi, Daphne.
Hi, Annie. Thanks for having me.
Oh, very pleased to have you here. Tell us a little bit about your journey. I mean, what made you want to go out into communities, build them, help people? What's in it?
Yes. So now I am the CEO and founder of Data Smart and Data Smart Kids. Data Smart is a AI and blockchain consultancy firm, and Data Smart Kids, we teach children how to code using the Scratch platform and other tools around. And for volunteer, I volunteer at Women Who Code Kuala Lumpur. And this is a non-profit organization who, which helps women in their technology career. So how I came about to join Women Who Code was that back when I was working in London about 10 to 10 years ago, I got myself a job in London in an online mapping company called Multimap. And I was a software engineer there. I was early in my career in a new place in London, and I often feel lost and lonely, especially when I feel like maybe I don't have the technical expertise and I'm not sure where to get help. So back in London, I ended up joining a few women meetup groups, including women in telecoms and technology, and women in telecommunications. And I found that, hey, I'm not alone. There are actually many women doing technology, and they speak up and they had various talks. And I feel that it's very inspiring to have role models that I can see that are in the tech industry. So I didn't feel so alone anymore, and I knew where to go for help. So when I came back to Malaysia, I seek out similar organization, and I found Women Who Code Kuala Lumpur. The chapter was founded by Jaslyn and she, him here, whom we are very close friends now. And I want to give back to the community, and I want to show the women in Malaysia that they can also do a successful technology career.
Right. And you and I spoke about while women in tech communities are thriving, a lot of them are there, and women do need that because that's a place where they find their voice.
Yes.
But Daphne, you said that it's equally important that they show up in the gender neutral communities.
Yes, I personally feel it is important to have a female voice in the tech community because women as a population, we stand for at least 50% of the population. And we don't want to have apps only built for men. We want apps for both
Indeed.
men and women, as well as software and web application. So I feel that the women voice is very important in this technology.
Awesome, thank you. And Daphne and Leanne, a word of advice for the women who are watching this and the women out there. What would be your advice be?
Yes, I feel like sometimes you feel lonely and stuck. You may be facing some technical problems, or as a founder, you may feel like you're facing resources issue. But don't keep silent. Talk to your friends, your family, and even seek out a network of support around you. Because when you talk through your problems, you can start to find solutions together. So don't take it all upon yourself. Share your problems with someone else, and maybe they would be able to give you an advice that can help you along.
Yeah, and that's why you should show up in communities and find those people. Leanne, over to you.
I love that, Daphne. And it's, you know, I don't know whether many of you have watched President Obama's latest speech to graduates, and he talks a lot about finding a community. And it's so important to find a community during this COVID time where things are challenging. So I think on top of that, maybe I can also speak to the women entrepreneurs out there who are looking at building solutions during this time. I think that, you know, my advice is really that tech is a means to an end and not an end in itself. And what I mean by this is really build a tech solution that is that solves an important problem and let tech follow the problem and not the other way around. Because if you build a tech solution for the sake of building something, you're going to be wasting a lot of time, a lot of money.
Very well said, Leanne. So lots to take away from this conversation, Daphne and Leanne. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm sure there'll be a lot of questions on the chat window. Please go ahead and answer them. And everyone out there, every speaker who is coming up and speaking, please feel free to reach out to them. This is all for the community, by the community. Thank you, Daphne. Thank you, Leanne.
Thank you.
I would like to call Dr. Lau in for a bit. Hi, Dr. Lau.
Hi, Annie. Can you see me and hear me clearly now?
Yes, and I'm so happy because 20
you.
minutes back you were struggling to get in, and now here you are. I'm very happy to have you here with us. To everybody out there, Dr. Sharhan Lau is a CEO of LEAD, and LEAD is an academy for data scientists. And he's a chief data scientist of a couple of startups. He's also the project lead for coronatracker.io, which was very key to Malaysia, currently is key in our road to recovery. So Dr. Lau, can you please tell us a little bit about Corona Tracker to begin with?
Sure. So Corona Tracker is a COVID-19 information portal that we provide up-to-date, not only just data, statistics, and also all sort of in the data science perspective, we have unstructured data from social medias, news articles. So two parts of the problems we try to solve. When we started the journey like late January, we realized that a lot of people are actually looking for two things. They're looking for reliable data and statistics so that they can do some sort of modeling or visualize the trends. And the second thing is they try to get reliable information, not just about news, but how many people were infected, how severe is the spread, etc. So we built Corona Tracker as the platform to fulfill these two needs. And we're a 100% voluntary platform, so we have 2,000 over volunteers coming from different countries, and we are currently at our version 2. So each of the individual countries, 195 countries in the world, they have access to their own set of data and also dashboards. This is where we're at right now.
How many data scientists work with you, Dr. Lau?
So the entire team, including the research team, we have about 15 to 20 data scientists. Some of them, they are more of the builder type, so they really build data solutions, write codes to process the data. And some of them, they are more from a research background, so they run analysis, they do modeling, and also help us to fine tune the different parameters so that we can provide the actual up-to-date information to different government, healthcare organizations, and also agencies. And that's just the data scientist part. And then when we talk about data science, a lot of people actually miss out that the key part is actually the data engineering. So we have another team of 5 to 8 data engineers working very hard on making sure that the database is able to scale and all the data pipelines are running smoothly.
I am flummoxed, if you will. How do you manage 2,000 large community and then channelize all that energy into creating something in a very quick time like Corona Tracker, and then connect the dots with the government and make sure the Ministry of Health is using it? Like, how do you do this?
So probably I'll start with the third question, is that getting the government and healthcare organizations to use that probably is not the easiest thing in the world. So what we do is that we provide an open API, and then we show them that, look, if you want to have the up-to-date data, so most of the ministries or Ministry of Health, right, or Department of Health, they do have up-to-date data of their own country. But when it comes to benchmarking against other countries, for example, in Southeast Asia, we have to benchmark against other ASEAN countries, and that they don't have access to the data. So the data is scattered around. Some of them is published by WHO. Some of them are published through Twitter. Some of them are published through infographics form, right? So we help them to solve the problem, and then they happily use it. In terms of managing the volunteers, is not something easy, and they come from all around the world. We have Americans, Australians, Taiwanese, Thailand, Taiwanese, I mentioned about that too, and Singaporean, Philippines. So we all work on different time zones. So thanks to technologies and the open source framework, so we use things like Trello, Slack, and we all use the standard language. So we write pretty much using Python and R, and also with GitHub. So it makes the workflow a lot smoother. Yeah. So I think the key here, if I were to summarize it in a one-liner, is to be open and make sure that the workflow doesn't need to be very complex in a sense, but it has to be sort of like well-defined at the very beginning, so everybody knows what to do when they have completed a task. Make sure that they go in and mark that they have completed, they push it, and then inform everybody, something like that.
Right. You must have the full DevOps working well if you really have to pull off a project like this, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and of course, thanks to Microsoft support throughout the journey, so that we are able to get a lot of things up and running without having to worry too much about credits and scalability especially.
Right. And how was the experience with Azure?
Okay, now to be fair, right? A lot of people, when they think about Azure, they think about Microsoft, they always go to enterprise solutions. But in fact, Azure has a lot of services, and those services in terms of naming is a lot easier to configure and spin up compared to other cloud providers out there in the market, right? And some of the developers, they were using C#. So for example, I came from a very long .NET journey, and we have a lot of tools like Visual Studio, and by using them to help us to write codes and then publish it to Azure, I think the experience was pretty good. Yeah, pretty seamless. And of course, there are some things that we need to learn, especially when I think one of the things that I found in Azure is that you really have to be careful when it says it's a preview features, and some of them is available in the marketplace. So, but once you get past that stage and then you spend a bit of time reading the documentation, which is something that a lot of people tends to not to do that. Once you read the documentation and you understand how all those components can be pieced together, I think, yeah, it helps us a lot.
Right. Good insight there.
Yep.
Now, in the current times, and a lot of questions around the community is like, where are the opportunities going to lie?
Yep.
So what would be your advice? Where to go look for those opportunities? What are those opportunities?
So one of the key thing, right? If we were to zoom down to let's just talk about data. So data science, a lot of people think that data science is the next thing, but if we consider the slogan, data is the new oil, which is very true, and data is in its crudest form, in the rawest form, has no value. A lot of people think that you are doing data analytics, you must be the guy that sells the data. We can sell data to someone, we can sell data to third-party companies, but that itself does not maximize the value of the data. It's just like selling crude oil. Eventually, you might get negative value out of it, right? Meaning that you have to pay somebody to process the data, and then you sell it at a cheaper price. So what I see, and the advice that I can give people is that, and during this time, we should stop talking about things like what the new norm is, what is the future is to be like. The only thing that's constant is change, and you can use data to help people to get used to the new lifestyles and then adapt to the current situations. And from our point of view, we work with different organizations. Not only we look at the bright side, things like economic growth, how do we help the startups, but we also look at other things that NGOs are looking at, and usually they are not the people that will pay attention to. For example, we can use AI and natural language processing to look at people's behaviors and the way that they talk to identify early symptoms of depressions or even symptoms like suicide. And also from a government point of view, we also want to help them to listen to different types of opinions and comments from different platforms so that we understand if recessions were to come, which we kind of expected that too, right? So if recession is coming, what can we do, and how can we react and respond in the shortest time and reduce the damage? And all this can be done using AI. And I don't think AI should be overhyped as a term, but we should always tie it to the application.
Right, absolutely. Lovely talking to you, Dr. Lau. As always, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity.
Yes, lovely, and keep up the good work. We'll be watching and cheering from the sidelines. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Over now to our exciting Ask Me Anything panel. This is Steve Shirky and his gang of 6. Hello, Steve.
Okay. So let's get all set up here. Irving, can you throw up the slide on the team of the panel? First, want to really say thank you to everyone who both attended the Build conference itself online, as well as joining us here for discussion of what was relevant and answering your questions around what you had heard or seen from Build, as well as to hear from our experts about what was interesting in terms of what was landed at Build. As most of you know, Build is our semi-annual conference for delivering new products and services to the market, new announcements, I think we have a lot of things to share, and we're going to do that now. So again, I would like to welcome my team, who's going to be answering those questions. And I would like to start to have an introduction first and then answering some questions. Ashwani, I would like to start with you. Ashwani is one of our specialists around cloud native solutions. Ashwani, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself? And then I want you to also tell me and the audience, what do you see as the Microsoft strategy for DevOps, given the fact that there's the Azure DevOps story and the GitHub DevOps story, which seem to have a lot of similarities, right? So customers are kind of asking that question. Can you give us first a little bit about yourself and then a background on that?
Yeah, hey, thanks, Steve, and welcome to everybody on Build Live for the Untitled Chapter. I basically lead a team within Microsoft for Cloud Native of DevOps, helping them be successful in their DevOps and Cloud Native adoption journey. So that's basically what I do for a living. And to come to Steve's question in terms of DevOps strategy, yes. We have GitHub, we have Azure DevOps. We spend a lot of money acquiring GitHub as well. So, but the fact is there is no single best tool. In the future, what we will be having is a single product which is unifying the best capabilities of both GitHub and Azure DevOps. So right now, the way we're looking at it is we've got tons of customers from enterprise who are satisfied and have been using Azure DevOps. Because as you know, Azure DevOps had a history. It started off with Team Foundation Server, moved to Visual Studio Online, then Visual Studio Team Services, then Azure DevOps. And parallelly, you have this entire movement starting from an agile journey perspective with people starting using Git repos, leveraging GitHub. So that's basically where we've got both of these with like GitHub has more than 50 million users right now as of last count last week. So there are people who are using it. So what we are doing is first thing that we've done is we brought the entire DevOps team from Azure. The Azure DevOps team is reporting to the same leadership as GitHub under the leadership of Nat Friedman. Most of the new investment will be in the GitHub offering. And what we're going to be doing in the new future is all the missing features which are there, all the key features which are missing in GitHub right now, we'll be getting them over from Azure DevOps and vice versa as well. Also, we will have official supported migration paths and tools to help customers move if and when you want to from say Azure DevOps to GitHub or GitHub to Azure DevOps. Okay. Yep. Does that answer?
Absolutely. And I think that's a really great insight, and obviously everyone's excited about seeing those two products develop. So next, I'd like to introduce Rita, who's representing on the data science side. So I wanted to ask Rita again to introduce yourself, Rita, and tell us a little about yourself and your role, as well as tell us a little bit about what's happening with data science from Microsoft perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks very much, Steve, for this introduction. So welcome everyone to Build 2020. I'm very excited to be part of this panel. So my name is Rita. I'm Cloud Solution Architect at Microsoft, and I'm working actually on the customer success unit based out of Singapore. So what inspires me first is customers, obviously. So I'm a part of the customer success. There's a reason for that. And second is all over the members. Interesting facts about me when we talk about members. I have 20 years experience in hardcore data science. So obviously before it was even called data science. And I have visited more than 100 cities in 2019, which might not occur in 2020 as well. Other facts, I speak 5 languages. I have 2 kids, 3 if you include my husband. So the question from you, Steve, was around the data science area. And we know that obviously there are a lot of things that Microsoft has been invested in the data science world. And I'm going to try actually to give a hint about what are the most interesting announcement that are going to be done in this Build 2020. So the very first one is around ONNX. So I don't know if you guys are familiar, but ONNX is an open runtime used to train model and also to inference models for from any framework. So for instance, from TensorFlow or from PyTorch. And the exciting announcement that has been done is around the ability to optimize all the techniques for running the Turing models. So obviously here we are talking about the largest model worldwide. And in June 2020, we're going to be actually able to run that from the ONNX runtime. And that's very exciting. This is going to be available on GitHub, and it's going to be very easily customizable for all data scientists that will be interested by that. So that's the first announcement. Other things that I think are super exciting is around responsible machine learning. So there going to be a lot of innovation around that, and I want to touch point on three of them. One is around really what we call the interpretability and the ability really to have more accurate and fair models by using fairness assessment. So there are going to be a lot of features around that that's going to help really data scientists to better be responsible on what they are doing. Privacy is also another concern that a lot of industries are actually having when it comes to data science. So also a lot of announcement around that with the computing capabilities that are going to be put with using sensitive data without exposing any privacy of individuals. And last but not least, things around auditing and be able to trace all the fine-grained data, lineage, and access control. So we're going to have also a lot of functionalities that are going to help really on the regulatory requirements. So I don't know for you guys, but a lot of the industries around banking, around also governments are really looking forward to this kind of regulatory aspects. I'm going to touch point also on two other things that I think are super important. One is around what we call machine teaching, and we have acquired a few years ago a company that is called Bonsai for Bonds Artificial Intelligence. So they're actually developing a solution that was dealing with autonomous system, and now we are very excited to announce that we are going to actually make that available for a public preview. So the project Bonsai is going to be available for the data scientists, and additionally to that, we're going to also announce the project Moab, which is actually a subsidiary of the project Bonsai, and that's going to help do things like 3D print of robots directly from the end user. So that's super exciting. Availability for purchasing these products are going to be announced later in the year.
Awesome.
Very last thing, because I think it's super important. Sorry, that was the question. I needed a lot of development. Cognitive search is also announcing a lot of new capabilities. One of them is the integration with the machine learning. Obviously, super important when we work on the data science world, and also the ability really to rank more accurately all the searches. So those are the main stuff, and I'm going to end up here. Thanks very much.
All right, thanks, Rita. So definitely a lot to be excited about, right? You've got ONNX support for Turing models. You have the cognitive search, the responsible ML initiatives happening in Microsoft. Project Bonsai, acquisition made a while back, that's really driving autonomous learning. Exciting stuff. So we're really hoping the audience will be jumping in with questions on those different topics. So we turn back to you. So next, I want to switch this over to Saji. So Saji, first, tell us a little bit about yourself. It looks like you have a nice setup out in Sri Lanka. I guess you have a nice penthouse. And tell us a little bit about what's happening with web apps on Azure.
Hey, thanks, Steve. Hey, everyone. Hope you're doing well and safe. I'm Saji, working as a cloud solution architect from the APAC One Commercial Partner Tech team. I closely work with ISVs to build innovative solutions on Azure. I'm passionate on technologies around app development, serverless, and open source. Coming back to your question, Steve, for developers with C# and HTML skill sets who doesn't know about JavaScript much, who are looking to create web apps, Blazor is the way to go. It's a free and open source web framework that allows you to build web application. And if you're a developer who has knowledge on modern frameworks such as Angular, React, and then Servlet, and also Vue, if you're looking to deploy your applications with minimal configuration and deployment, then check out this new hosting option, which was announced in the build, Static Web Apps, which is available in preview. Some of the features that I wanted to talk about is that you can build with favorite open source frameworks, as I mentioned earlier. What happened at the backend is that it is going to create a static web app with some packages that, such as Hexa, and hook up with GitHub Actions, and then it automatically going to create the CI/CD pipelines at the end. All this comes with few clicks. One additional feature that you can develop your backend APIs with Azure Functions that makes your application globally distributed, and also it makes your application to scale automatically. Also, additional fact is that VS Code, it makes the developers' life better with features like live sharing, remote debugging, to collaboratively work with your fellow developers to quickly build applications to the cloud. If you are excited about static web apps, there's a contest going on these days by Cloud Advocate team. Submit your single page applications to the repository that is published. I just published an application to create memes around programming languages, and it's available in the Microsoft sample gallery. And if you are looking to get started on static website, go to ak.ms learn and then search for static website. Yeah. Thank
awesome. You. Well, that's exciting news. I am a former web developer, and I love single page apps and building those pieces out, making it even more efficient for large scale horizontal support for customers for scaling. So that's really exciting. So next up, thank you, Saji. Next up, we have a gentleman, Irving. So Irving, you'd like to introduce yourself and maybe tell us a little bit on something that's been developing around the Windows subsystem for Linux, which is another favorite topic.
Hey, Steve, can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
So yeah, my name is Irving. I'm actually the cloud solution architect in Indonesia, covering a lot of the enterprise customers here. So I'm helping them when they want to set up their application, native application in Azure, or if they want to migrate their existing environment to Azure. And your question is very interesting because if some of you actually see the demo from Scott Hanselman, there's a lot of stuff there. And one thing is there is a lot of new stuff that we put in the new Windows subsystem for Linux, the WSL2, right? So one key thing that we just put is the GPU support. So there are two things here. One, it means that Linux applications, including the graphical applications, can now run on Windows on top of WSL2. As a developer, it means that we can easily switch between Linux application, Windows applications that we need during our application development. The second thing, it also means that our application can utilize the GPU directly. So for example, if you want to do a TensorFlow application using a script on Linux, you can run it inside WSL2, and then you can take the data back to your Windows environment, and then you can do stuff. It means that you don't really need to switch back and forth between these two environments using dual boot or something. You can just use WSL2. But everybody have to remember, if you already installed WSL1 previously, it means you need to upgrade. So you just search on our docs and you will find a way to do that very easily.
Awesome, that's exciting. It seems like the two spaces are converging again. So that's really great news. And GPU processing, that's great.
Yeah, that's good.
Next, I'd like to introduce Ujwal. And Ujwal, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your passion, which is around Microsoft's quantum computing efforts? I'd like to learn more about that myself, and love to hear from you about what you've seen at Build and what's happening.
Thanks, Steve. Hi, my name is Ujwal. I'm a global cloud solution architect with Enterprise Architect team in Microsoft. I'm based in Singapore, and I work with partners globally, some of the strategic partners, to understand their business problems and their goals, and then translate them into some of the actionable outcomes through envisioning, architecture design sessions, as well as proof of concept development. So in terms of quantum, I've been very interested in quantum for quite some time now, and I started working with our community team internally at Microsoft and externally here in Singapore. And some of the community members helped me ramp up. And I'm very excited to talk about some of the new announcements at Build to get started with quantum. So first, Microsoft Quantum basically provides a full stack open cloud ecosystem for people to get started. You can build once and you can have a diverse set of quantum resources, including some of the pre-built solutions to get started. Things like Quantum Development Kit, which includes a Q# language compiler, which can be integrated with Visual Studio Code as well, and run on not only Windows, but also on Mac and other platforms. Right. We also have simulators and resource estimation tools. Azure Quantum is also going to provide accelerated classical hardware with a variety which can be leveraged to build and test out some of the quantum applications, as well as a variety of quantum hardware is going to come up with partners from IonQ, Honeywell, QUI, and 1QBit. And in future, Microsoft is also working on bringing Microsoft's own topological quantum computer in future. Now, how to get started, right? I mean, as I mentioned, I was very excited to learn things and get started. So as a developer, one can download the Quantum Developer Kit and get started with Q# language to get to write code with quantum algorithms. One other thing for people who are absolutely new with quantum and how it works, they can get started with something called Quantum Katas, which is available on GitHub. And we have Jupyter notebooks where we explain the concept as well as the algorithms to get started and learn with. Some of the key application areas, which quantum solves very nicely and is very useful is things like optimization problem. It is very much well applicable with machine learning, and quantum simulations are available through these toolkits. Another thing which I'm very excited to talk about today is the build announcements. There are the quantum toolkit and the Azure Quantum is available in a limited preview perspective for end customers. So enterprise customers who are interested to get started and practice and test out on Azure, they can sign up. Second, we have 2 new Learn modules. So some of my colleagues mentioned before about Learn. I also wanted to talk about it. Quantum modules have been added on Azure Learn, and I'm going to paste the link for you and the team to get started. People who are listening to this should be able to use that and download it and get started with it. And third, there is a Quantum Developer online workshop, which is scheduled in July. There's a link for that as well, which I'm going to share. Thank you.
Awesome. That's great news. So I guess quantum is the new ML for the hotness. That's great news. And we had talked a little bit earlier, Saji had talked about development, and now we actually have Vito to share with us. First, if you could introduce yourself, Vito, but also to tell us a little bit about this new code spaces from Visual Studio. Maybe you can explain to us what that is and how that's shifting the way that developers are working.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Steve. So, hi, I'm Vito Chin. I'm a cloud solution architect focusing on app development on Azure. So I help teams develop an architecture for development, productivity, and operational resilience. So on code spaces, right? So I think VS code spaces is actually quite compelling. So obviously you can install and experiment with a dev environment without messing around with your local environment. So for me, the local environment is my laptop. And my laptop is sacred, right? I would like to reserve my hard disk only for my favorite coding tools and dependencies. So I'll not typically experiment that much with this sacred environment because I'm kind of a minimalist and I like to keep everything clean and tidy. So code spaces can help with that, right? So I run my development environment on the cloud. But code spaces is not just for individual like me coding, right? So when something as open as VS Code gets on the cloud, it becomes a platform. So when people start finding creative use around the platform, for example, you can see that there's these VS Code spaces badges going around in some of these GitHub repositories. Anthony Chu, one of our cloud developer advocate, has a DinoLand on functions example with such a VS Codespace badge. So that's really cool. If you click on that badge, it actually sets up a whole environment along with a code tour that will guide you on how to use Dino with functions. So that's how fast things are for developers with VS Codespaces. Yeah, that's it. I hope that answers that question, Steve.
Awesome, that does answer it, and I think we'll have even more to dive into there. I'm sure the audience's attention is peaked on this one. So next, I'm going to throw it to an audience question. We have a question coming in. Can you recommend some useful resources and communities for data science field? Rita, I'm going to throw this to you. I think in terms of resources for people who are basically ramping up the data science side and communities and what you've seen works well in APAC, if you have any recommendations on that.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have actually a bunch of resources, starting with the worldwide resources that are very active actually. So I'm part of several different groups that are interacting on a daily basis on different matters. So some of them might be more actually related to machine learning. Some others are really more generic in terms of AI. And you have some other communities that are actually touching point on the data and AI. So I would recommend actually to be part of these groups and get up to speed on some of the news every time there are like new updates. So that's the way generally I will actually recommend.
Okay, excellent, excellent. So there's also a question coming in, another one actually, a different context. It's going to talk to development, and particularly calling out doing development for Indonesia, for the government and the tech sector, and the edu sector. I'm actually going back to Irving on this one, because Irving's actually working as a CSA in Indonesia. He deals with some of the largest customers in both of those spaces. Maybe Irving, you want to take it in terms of talking about DevOps practices and best practices in terms of PII and handling those pieces, or what other concerns that you often will address within those contexts?
Yeah, sure, Steve. So thank you for the question. I actually replied in the chat, giving my LinkedIn so that we can continue the conversation later on to understand more on the specifics. But to answer your question, Steve, there's always an interest in terms of like security and data protection, especially in education and government. And we always work together with our customers to implement the right DevSecOps to ensure that all the code, all the infrastructure is secure, how they can deploy that in Azure to ensure that all the applications can cater with the load, especially in Indonesia, with almost 260 million of people. We can always ensure that we can utilize the power of the cloud so that it can scale up to whatever they need, especially in education. And I actually work with several education customers right now during this COVID-19 challenges, that they can do their online learning, and they can scale up to handle all their students' needs and their lecturers' needs on Azure. So I'd be happy to. I already put my LinkedIn profile in the chat, so people can contact me directly.
Awesome. Thank you, Irving. And actually, I'm not letting you off the hook. We have another question for you. Thank you for that. The next question is about private link. A lot of customers, enterprise customers particularly, are always looking for more secure solutions, how to basically, define ways of having different subsystems speaking to each other. Can you tell us a little bit about private link, as well as some more recent announcements around private link support across the different services?
Yeah, so one of the key questions always coming from customers is how they can create a private service, but using the platform as a service from Azure, right? For example, app services or Azure SQL, or perhaps like Azure Backup, for example. So they want to use it, but only to use it from their own premises, not from the internet or from the public, right? So we have this technology that we call private link. So for example, if the customer already have a VPN connection from their on-premises to our Azure or using Express Route, then these services like App Service, Azure SQL, they can be set up as a private link, so only can be accessible from their on-premises system. So this is very powerful because it means that they can leverage the power of the cloud, but also only used privately by the company. And the recent announcement that we do have for Build is that now we also have GA for the three messaging services, which is Event Hub, Event Grid, and Service Bus. We also have supported for backup, container registry. You know, we already have one for AKS API. Now we also support for Cosmos DB and a preview for IoT Hub. So now more and more services from Azure actually can be supported using private link, and that will be very helpful for our enterprise customers.
Perfect, perfect. So next I want to switch over and ask Ashwani a question, because again, whenever you're offering very specific tailored solutions to the market, challenges come up, and it's an idea that you have solutions that may appear on the surface to be equivalent, right? And then customers are asking the question of like, how is it differentiated? So can you talk a little bit about that managed service offering for Kubernetes? Because obviously that's a very hot topic, and customers are asking like, how do I choose to move forward? Is it Azure Kubernetes Service? Is it Azure Red Hat, OpenShift? What is the choice, and what is the different things that you see customers deciding around?
Yeah. Thanks, Steve. So basically, if you know, the entire philosophy of Azure is to meet where the customer is. So, and we do understand that there are a variety of customers who have different needs. Depends upon the customer's journey in terms of their maturity, in terms of their skill sets, and what their needs are. So that's the reason we've looked at multiple elements of what a customer's requirements are. And so if you look at where Azure Kubernetes Service comes into play, is basically where customers are really flexible and they want to build their own platform, and they want to be leading the way in terms of, you know, so for example, if a new version of Kubernetes gets deployed or gets released, how quickly they want to just get onto that particular version of Kubernetes very quickly, because they want to leverage those features. So that's basically where a lot of AKS customers are going in, where they want to be having flexibility. They want to be having the ability to manage their entire platform. And they want to be developing fast based on the capabilities that are being released by the open source Kubernetes community. And they are open to using third-party tools because they want to choose the best in breed and say, okay, I want to bring this together and all that. That's one aspect of it. The other aspect is based on the customers who are saying, okay, I will wait and watch, and I'll be a bit more precautious before I adopt. And they would want to have a commercially distributed supported version of Kubernetes. Also, they want to have long-term support, because if you look at Kubernetes, every 3 months there's a new minor upgrade or a 1.13 moving to 1.14 every 3 months, etc. When it comes to OpenShift, that support is built for a long term. So the customer has much more stability and they are looking for long-term support. So that's basically where AKS and Azure Red Hat OpenShift comes in. So I'll say Azure Red Hat OpenShift is a much more opinionated version of Kubernetes support that we provide. And on the other version, if customers want flexibility and want to move faster, they want to be on the fast trend, then we'll say let's use AKS. Okay. Also, specifically when it comes to Azure Red Hat OpenShift, we know that a lot of customers are using OpenShift on-premise and they are now warming up to the cloud. So they want to have a hybrid scenario. As a result is where we made this transition and we made this integration easy for customers to work in a hybrid environment. And that's where we've seen a lot of customers coming up and saying, okay, I'm using OpenShift, but I want to use the managed service version of OpenShift because it makes things like, spinning up a cluster or shutting it down in a matter of 10 to 12 minutes, which normally on-premise on OpenShift takes them about half an hour to 1 hour.
Yeah, that is a great call out for Red Hat OpenShift. If you're interested in it, seems like the best way to do testing around it. And if you're just getting involved in containerization, it seems like a great solution as a starter point for most people in terms of managed Kubernetes. So definitely good options. Thank you so much for that, Ashwani. I'm going to turn it back to Saji, and we're going to ask the question because talking earlier about single page application, you mentioned Angular and React and all these topics. Microsoft's all about open source. We love open source. So can you talk to a little bit about what open source frameworks that you're excited about personally?
Hey, thanks, Steve. So I want to mention about two things, and I will keep it very short. First one is around Dapper, which enables the developers who are using any language or any framework to easily build portable microservice application that can run on Kubernetes or any other environment. It also provides consistency and portability through open APIs, which are developed by open source developers, and extensible components that are fully community driven. It also handles states, resources, and it provides a pub/sub mechanism which enable event-driven architecture and also supports architecture that you can scale. There's a great session by Mark Rusinovich at MS Build, and if you're excited about Dapper, that is one of the sessions that you can watch it. And second thing is about Keda, which is a Kubernetes-based event-driven auto-scaling component. It provides an event-driven scale for any container running on Kubernetes. If you are a fan of serverless and also containerization, you can combine both in your architecture that includes Azure Functions and also Azure Kubernetes Service, the way you want to scale your application. These are the two frameworks or the components that I'm excited and looking forward in the next year that I'm looking forward to work with. Yeah.
Awesome, that's exciting. Maybe you could throw some links as well into the chat, because and Dapper definitely is one that's a really hot topic right now, and I hadn't heard about Keda. That's interesting. So these are two very good call outs. Thank you, Rita. So I'm gonna pass it back to you on Azure Synapse. I know that there's some new things happening around that. Very exciting product that's been announced in previews and then going live. What are the new features that we can expect to see soon out of Azure Synapse?
Yeah, so thanks, Steve. Azure Synapse has been an amazing topic and an amazing solution that we've been actually touching points on since last November in 2019. So I think a lot of people actually are very excited around all the features and all the different announcements that has been done at that time. So what I wanted actually to share is they're going to be actually additional announcements, especially around the features, and those are actually already available since May 19, and they're going to be available on a public preview, which means that also your customers and outside of Microsoft is going to be possible to start using those features. So, for instance, anything that is related to Synapse Studio with the unified experience, also some of the integrated SQL and Spark engines, the serverless data exploration with the Synapse SQL, and another one is also the shared metadata store and built-in Power BI authoring. So those are the things that are going to come out of the box on the public preview, for Azure Synapse. Another thing that also has been announced for Azure Synapse is the Azure Synapse Link. So Azure Synapse Link is also a very exciting announcement because it's a cloud-native implementation of HTAP. So for people who don't know HTAP, so HTAP is the hybrid transactional analytical process, and it's been actually really important in the architecture to enable analytics, especially when we are in a hybrid environment. So what it means is that we're going to be able to connect with no ETL processes from Azure Synapse using this Azure Synapse Link and combine really real-time data and analytical stores together to really gain insights directly from on-premise environment. So it means that it's super exciting. It's already available with Azure Cosmos DB, and it's going to be available soon also with Azure SQL and also Azure database for Postgres SQL. So those are the very exciting announcements around Synapse, and we keep on actually bringing more innovation around that, and I'm very excited to see all the new things.
That's awesome. That's great. And it is an exciting new product, and it really tries to blend the best of both worlds in terms of data warehouse solutioning. It's really great. Customers are loving it. So I want to turn it to Ujwal again. He talked a bit at the beginning on quantum computing. As we all know, we need the latest buzzwords on our CV. So I'm really interested in figuring out, how do I basically get this on my CV? What's the benefits of using quantum computing, and how can I do that on Azure? What are the things that Azure brings to quantum computing?
Thanks, Steve. So first, I wanted to take a step back and just mention like what exactly quantum computing is and how it works, right? So and then talk about some of the benefits as well. So quantum computing essentially is it applies to basically the properties of quantum physics and how it is used to process information. In terms of quantum computing, it really operates at a nanoscale level with temperature which is sub-0 degree or in a really high challenging environment in terms of solving some of the world's toughest challenges. We look at quantum computing. Now, quantum computer enables us, and it will enable us in future as well in terms of discovering some of the new areas in healthcare or energy, as well as environmental systems or smart materials and more, right? So it could be cryptography is one of the very easy and first coming thought, which when we talk about quantum computing, random number generation is one of the interesting programs. People can get started with Q-sharp very quickly. And that basically is one of the key or base of RSA algorithm in the security on which internet lies. So it's very interesting thing to look at from learning perspective. Now, looking at what benefits we are getting from Azure, right, and Azure Quantum. Azure Quantum is a one-stop shop that gives you the freedom to create your own path for scaling quantum computing, and scalable quantum computing allows us with a familiar Azure environment, right? So you have access to all the tools, the resources, and the good thing is that you will be able to quickly ramp up because Q-sharp you can integrate with things like C# or Python for that matter, or Jupyter Notebook for that matter. So tools are very familiar with us, and people can get started by leveraging those familiar tools by installing the Quantum Development Kit and get started. So one of the interesting things when I think about quantum computing is, while we have these supercomputers, computers which can solve a lot of these interesting challenges, when we talk about nature's problem, it could possibly take millions of years to actually solve those tough challenges, right? While in a quantum computer space, with a scalable quantum computer or universal scalable quantum computer, when it's become available to everyone, we should be able to solve those kind of problems in weeks or days, if not hours, right? And interestingly, it also allows us to, and especially the researchers, to develop new catalysts and new materials, improve medicines, accelerate advances in AI, and also answer some of the fundamental questions about the origin of this universe. So it's very interesting to look at some of these areas, and especially with the announcement which I just mentioned in a few minutes ago, we have added an optimization problem solution scenario, and how we can use the quantum computing to solve those optimization problems through the Q-sharp SDK and the quantum computing SDK. So it's very easy to install on the local machine on Mac or Windows and get started with Visual Studio or Visual Studio Code. Hope that answers. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. That's great. So just a brief moment here. I want to ask again to the audience, if you have any questions. This is so far just mostly us discussing what's interesting, what's engaging, what we saw at Build. But we really want to make sure that we're getting your questions answered as well. So please do throw them in the chat. Make sure that we're getting answers. We have about 15 minutes that we could spend continue to discuss. But we really want to hear from you. We really want to hear your feedback. And definitely please share that with us. Next, I'm going to switch over. I'm going to ask Vito some questions because he really piqued my curiosity around code spaces. Maybe if you could explain, customers are always obsessed with what's the lowest cost options and how do I optimize my processes. How do you see code spaces landing a message in that space of cost efficient development processes?
Yeah. So first of all, code spaces runs on Azure. So you will be charged on the compute and storage used. There's a basic tier which costs 0.085 cents per hour, and obviously there's the standard and premium tier 2. I did some maths on the basic tier and it's about 68 cents a day. So standard will be about double that, about 130, and premium at about 260. So that's not a lot from an enterprise perspective, but let's cast the compute cost aside and really look at the productivity savings that you can get from code spaces. Well, I know that environment consistency for developers had been important since a long time ago. I used to work at the BBC about 10 years ago, and developers were already getting VMs that provides a sandbox of what to expect from the platform on which the applications are deployed. Now, these sandboxes obviously needs to be updated as the platform change. New libraries may be added, new versions, etc. Right? And here's where things get even more interesting. Developers these days may be using a multitude of sandboxes depending on what they are working on right now or which team they are working with. So the complexity of dealing with these development environments can be quite daunting and time consuming for the developers. You don't want developers to be messing about with, bootstrapping the sandbox all the time. You want them really to be working on impactful code and being really closer to the business use cases. So here's where tools like code spaces can really help streamline the process of managing these things. Yeah. Any more questions, Steve?
Okay. No, that's great. That's great. So we did get an audience question. Thank you so much, Vito. We did get an audience question on Arc. Obviously, this is a really critical product for anyone running in hybrid or multi-cloud environments to be able to have a single pane of glass to execute their workloads. Irving, can you walk us through a bit on Arc and how that's deployed and managed? What does that mean for customers?
Yes, Steve. So Arc is basically a hybrid or a cross-cloud management system, right? So imagine that you need to deploy your applications or your data platform in several different locations, in on-premise, on Azure, or even in AWS or GCP. But then right now, what you have is you actually need to use a different management tool for each cloud and also on-prem. With Arc, what you can do is you have a single plane of management, a single plane of dashboard, where you can manage all of that. You can deploy, for example, your application in a Kubernetes in on-prem. You can deploy the same application in Azure Kubernetes Service. You can deploy on, for example, Red Hat OpenShift. All of that in the single control plane on Arc. So that will also include the data services like Azure SQL, for example. So and because of this microservices and combination with Arc, you can actually have a very efficient way to manage your multi-cloud or even on-premise solutions. That will be very helpful and very powerful because it means that now every customer that need to have this kind of services can easily use our Azure Arc and manage everything.
Awesome. That's again, very exciting story, and I've heard a lot of interest from customers around that. Another question just came in. Is it chocolate, vanilla, or strawberry, Irving?
Oh, I'm the strawberry kind of people.
Okay, that was the right answer. That was the right answer. I do seriously have another question for you, and it's related to the Azure Resource Manager, the ARM. That's obviously a way of managing Azure environments and doing it via infrastructure as code. Can you explain a little bit about ARM? What is it compared to other options in the market, and then what is this what if analysis that was announced?
Yeah, so if you already have a very large implementation of your environment, for example, in Azure, you don't deploy things by creating a service using the portal, right? For example, you want to deploy application, you create a new app service, and then you create a new Azure SQL directly from the portal. Maybe for a small environment, you can do that, but for a large enterprise, that will not work because you need control. You need something that you can test first. So ARM is a kind of template where you can deploy your application using ARM templates. You can test it first in your testing environment, and then if it works, then you can just run the ARM template in the production environment, for example. So it's compatible with, for example, Terraform from the open source community. Something that we announced just now in build is that now using ARM template, when you want to deploy, it will show you first the what if analysis. So what will be the changes? What kind of things will be applied when you run this ARM template? What will be the impact to your existing environment? So is there any changes that will happen? So you can immediately see and you can analyze the impact first before you immediately do to apply the ARM template. So it will help you to gauge a bit, okay, should I deploy this? Or this is not expected, or okay, this is already expected. So you can just immediately run it. That will be much better for the system administrator or the admin of the cloud.
Perfect. Yeah, it definitely seems like it'll avoid spinning up unnecessary infrastructure and potential cost issues there. That's
exactly.
Great. Yeah. So I have a final question for Rita. What are the different improvements that are happening to our bot frameworks? What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, that's a very good question, Steve. Actually, there are a lot of announcements that also have been made for this Microsoft built around Microsoft bot framework, but also everything that has to do with the Azure bot services. So basically, the idea with all those new features and those new improvements is to make developers work more productive. So part of it is actually first on the bot framework itself. So a lot of things have been done around conversational AI to make it more rich in terms of features that can actually help to build more intelligent bots. Also, another thing is around contextual AI with the new ability that is called adaptive dialogue capability that is going actually to make it more easy to build bot capabilities and switch from one context to another and don't have actually to restart a new conversation when you are talking to a bot. That is an awesome capability that is also coming in with these new builds. Other things that we can also notice for the bots is around the Teams integration and more generally the new availability of the bot framework SDK. So it's going to be awesome to really have these interactions straightforward from Teams or from any other application where we can actually develop the bot framework and integrate directly to those different applications. Another thing that we want also to highlight here in this bot framework conversation is around the Composer. So Composer is actually for the bot framework an open source tool that is going to be available for developers to have really a central environment. So they're going to be able to start straightforward without having actually to go here and there and be able to centralize all the things that they're doing, either for building a Q&A maker straightforward or to build something a little bit more intelligent using language understanding services. So those are pretty much all the things that have been actually announced. So at least the ones that I have noticed. Of course, there are a lot of things that you might want to look at on the later on announcement, but those are the main ones.
Okay, excellent. So now, just looking at switching on, we definitely appreciate all the updates from the panelists. Thank you so much for your participation. We basically feel like this is obviously a lot of things happening, right? If we look at what's happening in the industry and the changes that have been introduced, even setting aside, the dramatic shift that always happens with technology and the challenge of keeping up with everything. We know this is a stress for everyone out there in the audience, and we really appreciate you joining us for this piece. I'm getting back to what Satya had to say on it is that, we've seen such a shift in the industry just responding to COVID, what's happening in the industry in terms of 2 years of digital transformation that has been shoehorned into 2 months. So obviously a lot of exciting developments, and really appreciate you listening to us today, talking about what we found exciting about Build. We do recommend that you go back through the content in any of these particular areas, that you take a look at the links that were shared in the chat. and you follow up on, building your own learning path around those pieces, because they are ready today to start working with. I'm going to throw it back to Annie, and actually, Annie, I have a question for you. Okay, Coke versus Pepsi, which is it?
Coke.
Oh, okay, good answer, good answer. Okay, excellent, thank you.
Well, Steve, before you go, I have a question for you.
Oh, no, it doesn't work that way. I'm the moderator.
Well, what's your favorite from Build this year?
I would say I'm excited about co-development efforts. That's exciting. I like what I heard from Saji. I wasn't even aware of it until this call. Related to the single page app and hosting those pieces and building those pieces, because I think it's critical for large scale web application development that you have that horizontal structuring where you can build this high quality single page application and then scale out in the back end with some of these Azure services. So I think those are all exciting. I mean, everything that we've heard in terms of private link adoption, that's going to be great in terms of changing the way customers are accessing those services in a secure manner. Definitely love the AKS and that ongoing story. So a lot of exciting things. I love it all.
Right, thank you. Thank you to all the members on the panel, our awesome dev champs. You guys rocked it, and I just loved this session. So thank you so much. Right. We'll have this recorded and available for everybody out there, and those who missed it to go back and check it out. Just a quick note on Microsoft Docs. So this is where you can go and see the documentation of everything that you heard, what you've not heard as well. Okay, so coming up next, we have, so you've heard so far about a lot of folks, our community leaders, talking about the need to get hands dirty doing some projects, right? Even in communities. So let me call Babu Priyavrat. Hi, Babu.
Hi, Annie, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now. Thank you for joining us. Babu is the founder of AI Geeks, and he's got 7 chapters across, building this AI Geeks communities across countries for about 3 years, right?
Yeah, it's been 3 years.
So this is awesome. So I think this segment, we are going to see community leaders who are like taking community on steroids. It's not about one community and nurturing, but it's about a multitude of communities, and all the 4 speakers that you're going to see now is going to be like that. So Babu, tell us your journey from starting off in the beginning to how did you end up now with getting communities to actually work on open source projects?
So in 2017, when and the deep learning was taking off and people were very excited about deep learning, I started a community in Pune, and I see a huge participation going on. People started requesting for workshops and everything, and eventually we organized workshops. And then we moved to, grew up in different cities, and we realized that the participation of people across various cities in the same platform is essential. So even before COVID-19, we were more like an online community, spanning across various cities and trying to collaborate and come up with the project work. We did some open source works like collision prediction, where we can predict collisions using dashcam videos, and deepfake detection using iBlink. So these were some, and what happened is people contributed at this time, and they went ahead, and then they went ahead with their jobs. So later on, we became a platform where people can submit their ideas, and they can basically start their idea into an MVP phase, almost in a zero cost model, because the community is very collaborative and people are willing to contribute. So they can make their own products almost in a zero cost.
Is it more about learning by doing some of this, or it's actually going commercial?
So there are two aspects. One is research oriented, where you learn by doing something. The two projects which I talked about, collision prediction and defect detections, are learning by doing something. There can be commercial aspects as well, where people can be contributing to making their own idea. And once they make their own idea, they can build a team and make sure their idea is protected and they can go in a commercial direction.
Right. And how easy is it to get a really enterprise grade product from a community project?
It is difficult in a sense that the enterprise grade products has a very strong support system in a place, whereas a community doesn't have that kind of strong support system. We can definitely do an open source project, but when it comes to making sure the APIs are ready, it is getting updated, you have a strong support system in a place, it is difficult to do. But nevertheless, the cloud services provided by Microsoft and other provides us a managed services, which helps the community to run the services effectively with little or no support.
Right. And how do you find participation in the communities, Babu? Is it easy to find speakers? This is something I hear often from community leaders, that it is not easy to find speakers, and especially women speakers, if you will. And probably there are people from across who, like even in our community session today, people, and earlier in the New Zealand and Korea chat as well, people asking, hey, I want to speak about this topic. How do I make the dot? How do I connect with community leaders?
So we have a process where anyone can come and say that I want to present a topic on a webinar, and or I want to submit my idea, and they can go online and schedule an event. It is true that women speakers are less, but I will not say that is the, when it comes to projects, it is I see that women participation is more pronounced. So for example, we have only 10% of the women in our, nearly 10% in our community, but when it comes to project participation, the percentage goes up from 25 to 40%. So that's where I see, that's where I see the gap. They may not be presenting, coming as a presenter very well, but they are willing to participate more in the projects and same time contribute a lot. So I do see that it's a myth that women don't take part in, as you have seen in the tech communities previously discussed earlier, they do participate in the projects.
I guess women like getting things done. That's probably why you see them in the projects,
okay.
Rather than speaking. And we know that as a gender, we are a little behind in terms of speaking up much and showing what we've done. And that's a constant conversation among the women in tech circles, that you don't need to be 100% confident to talk about it. Go ahead and say what you, and share what you have done. So that's fine. Now, Babu, very quickly take us through one project of yours that you're very proud of.
So the one project which we think we have thought of recently during COVID-19 is something called Right Fit. People are not going to shop, and they're not able to buy. They're buying clothes, but they are not testing the clothes, and they can be buying clothes which are not their size. I think this is a huge potential when it comes to e-commerce and a commercial aspect. So I think this is a project we will be very much focused on. And collision prediction is one of the another projects which will be very much be trying to commercialize, where we can go ahead in that direction or not. But it still remains a research project, because we will be able to see it. We know that many people lost life due to COVID-19, but even before COVID-19, a lot of people lost lives during accidents. And if we can minimize those driving accidents, it will be very much critical and useful for the society.
Awesome. Are there some projects where you're looking for folks to join?
Yes, we are always open, and we have a project page where you can go and just join the project. It's a very simple and straightforward process.
Maybe you can leave the community link on the chat window, so we get people to volunteer for this.
Sure, no worries.
You mentioned deepfake detection, authenticity project, collision prediction. That one is closed now, right? But yeah, awesome. We have it on the. We'll be having it on the chat window soon. Your word of advice or remark to the community of developers out there?
So as some of the speakers have said, that don't run towards the tech, run towards the problem statement, and you should have a outward in strategy, like Willie Peterson has always said, that you should have an outward in strategy, see what is going outside in the market, see the problem statement, be empathetic to the people. Empathy in listening is pretty important, and then you can come up with real ideas. And even in a project team, be open and transparent as much as possible, because in open source communities, it is very important that you contribute and as always acknowledge the people who are contributing. So that's my key thing.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for the nice message. Babu, it was a pleasure having you here. And as always, great talking to you. Look forward to being in touch. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
All right. So that was Babu Priyavrat, runs AI Geeks, has a lot of community projects going, and it's time for you to join some of the projects and get your GitHub resume ready. So now, the next up session is 3 people who are literally, as I said earlier, taking community on steroids. And you're gonna enjoy talking to them. We have Shamira Prajapriya. He's an MVP, that's the most valuable professional with Microsoft. He's an entrepreneur and he does a lot of work in the STEM up communities. We have Prabhat Manipura, who is a partner technology strategist, works out of Colombo. He's a real life story of a student turned professional, now working with Microsoft, being a Microsoftie all his life, literally. And the third person is Georgie Kerr from Thailand. I don't know how to say what all Georgie does. She's a Pi Ladies Global Council lead. She also runs a huge number of conferences. I let her talk about it, but I don't know how you do this. You are probably in 4 or 5 communities at the same time and driving some mega events for all of them. So let's start with Georgie first. Hi, Georgie.
Hi, can you see me?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Hi, everyone. I'm Georgie, and I'm living in Thailand, but actually I'm not Thai. But I've been living here for more than 10 years. Yeah. So I'm organizer for Python. Oh, actually, I was born in Singapore, but I migrated to France. Then I went to live in Indonesia, and then now in Thailand.
Awesome. Yeah. Okay. Global.
So yeah, I'm an organizer for a few events, so including PyCon, RubyConf, Hacktoberfest, Code War, Pi Ladies, and monthly meetups. Yeah.
Okay. So it's very interesting. How did you get started with working with communities?
Well, it all started with Hack Night. Sounds like a scary movie, but it all started in Hack Night when I was like joining and typing and playing codes with other people, just working out what we can discuss about and chill out about. Then I was asking Dylan, one of the organizer for TaiPi, I say, hey, do you have a Ruby Tuesday or Ruby something meetup going on? Mm-hmm. And he said, no. So why don't you try and set one up? I said, oh, okay. So I started asking around, and then we got like 4 organizers coming in together, and we said, let's do it together, because if we are doing it alone, it's too much. So then from Ruby Tuesday, someone actually came in to tell me like, hey, why don't you help out with PyCon too? Because like we need help for the logos and some design, and you have some background with that. So I said, right, okay. So slowly from year 1, PyCon logo, then PyCon year 2 marketing, and then RubyConf. God knows how it just start rolling in.
Okay.
Yeah.
So an interesting thing I'm hearing from your story is that start with whatever opportunity is there with the community, and it doesn't matter that you're not a speaker the first time. You start giving, and then you start building your community and network, and then you grow from there, right?
Exactly.
It's a great example of that. So tell us a little bit about how you see the journey of developers. When do people prefer workshops? When do they go for hacks? Is there some experience required for hacking? How does it go?
I think hacking is the word hack itself is the thing that's exciting. So when we say hack, it sounds like we're doing something illegal, to be honest. So people are like, yeah, let's do something different. But nowadays, hack is like, you can just hack anything. You can even hack an IKEA work, you know. But that work actually excites people to learn something new. And the best thing about hacking is that you can actually use different methods, and any methods are open as long as you can find a solution. And I think that's one of the best thing about hacking, and like you can use in any languages, as long as whether it's fast or slow, you can always get a solution. Yeah.
Right. Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks, Georgie. Let's skip to Shamira for a bit. Hi, Shamira.
Hi.
Hey, Shamira. I've been curious about how you actually take a small community and then you scale it, and you started from Colombo and now it's all over Sri Lanka. So tell us the story of that community and how you actually create scale.
Okay, so starting from like I joined with this community programs everything 5 years ago. That's how it started. Actually, if I were to highlight how we started it, like from Microsoft, Sri Lanka Microsoft, there's a person who gave me a golden opportunity to join with a program that Microsoft conducted a program in Thailand for IoT, because I was a guy who was passionate about IoT at that time, now also. And then he requested me this thing. So if you join this session, you have to at least conduct community events. At least you have to share what you learn in Sri Lanka. So that is how I started with Azure IoT Squad in Sri Lanka. So after doing 1 year continuous program in IoT related stuff, so you thought about it's time to like expand that about community program. So we rename it as Azure Squad. So we touch everything about Azure. So that's how the technology, specific technology area we started. And then again, yeah.
So but how did you get it from Colombo to the rest of Sri Lanka?
Yes. So why we just passionate about all this is we want to share everything. So we noticed that when we do these kind of sessions within Colombo, the community who reach for these sessions is limited only for Colombo. We want to find a way where we can expand our programs to out of the Colombo, out of the city area. So actually there were 4 people who was in the same intention, like they want to share what they know. So these 4 people get together, and all our professionals, so get together and we started this STEM Up Foundation. So what we do is we want to create a hubs, like where the people and student kids, anybody who can join with the program which is run on their region. So for that, what we did was we just connected with people who are established in those areas, a professional who wanted to join with us, university students, because in Sri Lanka we have universities in all the regions. Likewise, we expanded this to reach the like people who are out of Colombo, rural areas.
Right. So now Microsoft has announced the program, or rather actually launched the program of Learn Ambassadors, student Learn Ambassadors, and I'm sure that's going to help the work a lot. Let me now quickly jump to Prabhat. Hi, Prabhat.
Hi, Annie.
Prabhat, you are a real life story of how do you grow with a brand? Tell us a little bit about your journey with Microsoft.
Thanks, Annie. Yeah, I think if someone asks me why we should be a part of a community, especially a technical community, I would say I am here today because of the technical community around me. Right? If I tell you my story in brief, I joined with the Microsoft Student Champs community in Sri Lanka soon after entering the university. Started contributing and connecting with more people through blogging, podcasting, speaking in different forums, and finally became a Microsoft student partner. So MSP program opened up a new chapter in my life because I was able to gain a lot of experience, exposure, connections, and knowledge. So when I was in third year in my university, I got an opportunity to become an intern at Microsoft Sri Lanka. So although I'm coming from a software engineering background, I did not want to become a full-time software engineer, but I wanted to make other people cool in a different way. So after the graduation, I was fortunate enough to become a contingent staff member in Microsoft Sri Lanka again. And last year I became a full-time employee at Microsoft. So all this because of the community. So one thing I want to highlight here is you may be a student who is trying to start the career life, or a professional who is trying to get into the next level of the career. Join a tech community and start contributing your best. Other benefits will definitely follow you.
Awesome, awesome. I love that story. And so what communities do you run now?
Right now, and if you take Microsoft, if we focus the developer community, basically we have two main categories: student community and professional community. So there are 6 various technology focused meetups are happening in Colombo each and every month. So we have different community leaders like Shamira who are managing those meetups. So fortunately, we have a great set of MVPs in Sri Lanka who are really contributing to the tech community in different ways. And it's really nice to see how they are continue those in-person meetups online during these days in parallel to COVID-19 pandemic. So if you look at universities, having active communities inside universities is really important. So in Sri Lanka, we have Microsoft clubs established inside each university, and Microsoft student ambassadors and other leaders are organizing different activities like meetups, tech talks, and hackathons time to time, and we support them. And one last thing, most importantly, we have built a pool of resources with our MVPs and professional tech experts, and that pool of resources have been connected with university student champs and leaders who are running the show. Then they can easily get in touch with them and continue and get support from our leaders.
Right, right. Yes, I think we are very lucky to have our group of MVPs, and Shamira is representing them here today. They are rock stars in their own field. So now for a last round, a very quick round of questions to all 3 of you on what you would like to leave as a message with the developers out there. Georgie, we'll start with you.
Okay, so I think the most important thing is not to be afraid, and don't think that you are different from the others and you couldn't actually compare to the others. So like one of the code war that I've conducted 2 years ago, the winner of the code war was actually 5 year 1 students from university, and they actually beat all the developers, all the founder of the top developing companies. So the reason why they win was because they were precise and they take their time, and the final was lost because the experienced developer actually made a mistake. So things like that do happen.
Mistake
like one line of code that he just forgotten to check.
Okay.
Yeah. So things like that, and it doesn't matter whether it's what kind of language. One of the other hackathon similar kind of event we did, the fastest we actually got the answer, believe it or not, he used Excel sheet.
Oh, wow.
And he beat all the others. So yeah, it's not a question of language. It's not a question of experience. It's just that you have to try. You have to step in somewhere to try and share. Because if we don't try to share and exchange, we're not going to learn. Yeah.
Right. That's a great message. Share and learn from each other. Right? Yes, and try. I think try first. I think that's a brilliant one right there. Thanks. And Shamira, what are your thoughts?
So actually, I would add something to the George's one. Like, so I believe everyone in this world is good at least in one thing.
Mm-hmm.
So as like when you come to the community programs, it can be C#, it can be UI experience, it can be Azure, it can be infrastructure. There can be something you're good at. So if you try to share that thing with some other group, there will be two benefits. One thing is a set of group will get learned on that, and you will be having a good knowledge on that again, because you are just repeating the same thing, and you will be finding like what are the faults and errors on yourself. So you'll be experienced on that area. Actually, that is what I have done, because I wanted to share every time I want to share what I learned through the global or this Microsoft, everything. I'm just sharing it with my community. So thing I want to ask is, today onwards, so just start sharing, enlighten others.
Right. Don't hoard knowledge. It's perishable. It's going to be irrelevant in some time as well. So go ahead and share freely, and you'll grow with that. Awesome. Thanks, Shamira. That's a beautiful message. Prabhat, over to you.
Yeah, Annie, one last message from me would be start contributing to the community, because when you are sharing, to add to Shamira's point, to your point, all us trying to give the same message. When you are trying to share something, share your knowledge with others, you will definitely learn new things. You will start learning new things. So in Microsoft Sri Lanka, if you are a Sri Lankan, even in other countries, in other subsidiaries, we are in similar kind of program. Join with them. We have the platform. You are mostly welcome. At this stage, you might be afraid to get into a stage and share your knowledge with someone, but talk to us. We will open up the stage. From the second event onward, you will be more comfortable to do or speak in front of the audience.
All right. Thank you so much, Georgie, Shamira, and Prabhat. It was such a pleasure having you.
Thank you.
Look forward to another conversation another time.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah.
And so we move to the last segment, where we'll try and wrap up with some thoughts about what we heard throughout this afternoon. So Microsoft Learn is right here. Everybody spoke about learning and then sharing. So Learn, you can go to docs.microsoft.com and find the documentation /learn, and you will find Learn. So Learn is a modular learning, micro-modular learning platform from Microsoft. There are so many role-based learning. So pick the role you want, and then it will tell you which are the modules you need to cover. Or you can choose to just go in and learn what you want. Just-in-time learning as well. So find, learn, go online, find, learn, find the role you want, and then sign on. The next thing is, Georgie was talking about hacks. We participate and we run hacks a lot of the time. So find us, and this is a place where you will find all these things, our community. So sign up to our community. You will get a monthly newsletter, which will have all of this that we're talking about. What are we doing? What are the events, the hacks that you can join? What are some of our cloud advocates writing? I mean, they are cool people who are writing a lot of stuff on whichever area of the app development or the programming language you are in. So you'll get to hear from them and also be exposed to what's the latest technology, what's the new learn stuff coming in, etc., etc. So make sure you sign up to this, scan this QR code, sign up to the newsletter, which is part of our community. With that, we come to the end of our segment. And I want to say thank you. Thanks from the bottom of my heart to all the speakers who were here today. Right from our community leaders in the beginning segment, right down to Prabhat at the just past segment, and a huge thank you to the ton of people behind the scenes that you're not seeing. I want to call out Shivangi, Daniel, Ian, and Sudhir, who are my compatriots in this journey with developers and all the teams behind that have worked hard on making this an awesome event. Thank you. Keep talking to us and watch the rest of Build. Thank you. Bye.